Right.
Okay, so we're recording and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if you can see this.
Yep, I can.
Okay, wonderful. So before we dive into all the things, because there's clearly a lot to discuss, I just want to take a minute to explain to you what you're even looking at. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I appreciate that.
okay, wonderful. And let me know if you have any questions. But this entire modality is based on sound frequency, because sound is extremely powerful when it comes to creating our reality.
Mm.
So the example I like to give is it's a Bible reference, regardless of how you feel about the Bible. But right at the very beginning, there's literally nothing until God starts to create with voice, right? Of all the ways God could create us, and God said, let there be. So
Right.
it's the voice that we're pointing to. So the premise here, again, is that the sound of your name is creating your reality. And before a soul chooses to reincarnate into any given lifetime, the soul chooses the karma it's going to bring into, the talents, the goals, the soul destiny, and the soul chooses the name, the soul chooses the birthday, the soul chooses the parents, the soul chooses what it's going to look like, right? All of that. So if you ask any parent, they'll usually tell you there's some story, in regards to their children's name.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what I'm working with. So I'm converting the name into sound frequency, and then I put it around the Merkaba. Okay, so we know this as a Star of David. It's a sacred geometry symbol called a tetrahedron, again, which often referred to as a Merkaba. The triangle that's facing down is where we get all the physical aspects of your life: physical, karma, talents, goals. And we experience these frequencies very dominantly from ages 0 to 35. Around the age of 35, these frequencies start to come online, the triangle that's facing up. And these are the spiritual frequencies of essentially of the soul and what you came here to do. And so I don't know if you can think back to around the age of 35, but usually there's some sort of a transition that happens around this time frame, like marriages, divorces, career changes, midlife crises, because again, things that used to work in the past no longer work. These frequencies are coming online. At this point, you're 48, you're feeling all the things. And here we are.
So I was just getting my calculator out.
Okay.
So 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I would have been 35. And 13 years ago is when I started having my autoimmune stuff, because I got full custody of my kids from my husband. We had been divorced, or no, let me see. Yeah, we'd been divorced, but we had split custody, and it was a nightmare. It wasn't working. So I took him to court for that is so interesting. I took him to court to get full custody because I wasn't getting child support or anything. And that I was so terrified of him because he was very abusive. That triggered my autoimmune stuff. So that happened 13 years ago, and 48 minus 13 is 35.
Yep. And there you go. Right on track.
Yeah. Amazing.
Right on track. Yeah. You have an enormous amount of public speaking frequency. Do you speak?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, I mean, I've had a lot of different jobs. So I've been in the nutrition side of things, like in hospitals. I worked in a hospital for 23 years. So that kind of morphed into like public speaking with diet education, with like the public. And then then I got into like a social service type of work where I was always the center of attention and like leading meetings, even though it makes me very uncomfortable, to be the center of attention. At the same time, I'm somewhat comfortable talking in public if I understand what I'm talking about. Um, and now I'm like a program coordinator, so I have to talk in front of groups of people. So a lot of my work has been talking in front of people.
Okay. All right. Well, because this is what you came here to do. Like, it is literally your soul destiny number. I see this extremely infrequently, like
Really?
very, very rare. Sometimes I look at like celebrity names just for fun. So like Justin Timberlake, I know has a 17-age soul destiny, right? And he's
Okay.
like really in the public, right? I mean, he's like, I mean, he's
Yeah.
a celebrity, but he's a singer also.
Right.
Um, which is fascinating. I see this frequency so rarely as a soul
Huh.
destiny, but it's like you are literally the mouthpiece for God.
Hmm.
Like, so much wisdom is meant to come through you. Do you find that sometimes when you talk to people, you say the right thing at the right time?
Yeah. I have a lot of people come to me for advice, and I tend to like if there's a group, I will tend to be the one to like start the conversation, or like if we're supposed to be doing something and nobody wants to initiate, I tend to be the one that initiates. And I just recently went into business with two ladies I met in a clairvoyant class, because I'm new to all this. I was a conservative Christian until 3 years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like a baby to all this. But we just started a YouTube channel because we graduated with certificates for reading auras, and we wanted to go in business together. Just we just get along really great, and so we do that, and I tend to kind of initiate like our readings and that kind of thing. And I initiated like a Facebook group, and I got our YouTube channel started. So we have like 3 videos up there. So, but I have heard that a lot. I've had a lot of different readings, and I've heard I'm meant to be like a bridge to get people from one place to another kind of thing. And I've done health coaching. So I thought, maybe as a health coach, I'm meant to do that. So I don't know.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating. The woman I had literally right before you, she was raised in a very, very Christian household, and she stepped into spirituality, but she knows like her mother doesn't quite like accept it. Like she
Mhm.
was telling me about this conversation she recently had with her mom, where her mom says, I want to ask you a serious question. Are you ever coming back to church? You know,
Oh.
so I feel like, and I never have like oftentimes I have clients back to back for very specific reasons. I can't even tell you like this story. I'm not even surprised at this point. Like one time I had a man in the morning, and he was telling me how his baby brother died of SIDS, and he found him in his crib.
Oh.
Reading right after him, the woman, her sister died of SIDS.
Oh, yeah.
Never
Yeah.
before or after had I had any SIDS situation, but
Yeah.
so, but and there's so many cases like that. So
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
coming to me, you're saying this, and I'm like, immediately what I heard was like your voice would be so powerful for people like this woman's mother
Yeah.
to come into
Yeah.
some sort of acceptance of her daughter, where she
Right.
may not be able to get the message to her mother the way that you might,
Mhm.
or something
Well,
like
and that's my biggest struggle right now is I'm still in the spiritual closet. Like so many of my family and close friends and like support system and people in my life are still conservative Christians, and they don't know about this secret part of my life. So every day I think about how can I come out? Like what can I say that I'm going to feel safe in saying it? Like how do like what words do I use? So yeah, that's a huge thing I'm struggling with right now.
yeah. Well, and I'm going to show you why you're struggling with it, versus somebody who would just come out and say, this is who I
Right.
am. And
Yeah.
because you have a 7-7 physical karma and a 20-2 spiritual. Let me explain it. If you didn't tell me that you, had this, Christian background,
Mhm.
I would have asked you, because the 20-2, they usually grew up in very strict environments like
Mhm.
religion or military.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you like, this is the karma you're coming in to work through. So it's like, the reason your body's so rigid is because you were, well, it's from, much of it is from the 20-2, is because you were raised so rigid, like,
Mhm.
and our body shows how we are emotionally,
Mhm.
and so maybe now that you're sort of trying to break free, but you're still trapped because you're not being seen. The sevens, they don't want people to see them. They don't want people to know their vulnerabilities. They don't want people knowing their business. They don't want to be judged. They don't like, they hide
Yeah.
away, they isolate,
Yeah. Mhm.
and they're control freaks.
Yeah.
Again, rigidity, right? So
Right.
as soon as I pulled up your chart and I'm seeing your numbers and you're telling me you woke up with a stiff neck, I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised,
Even though I scheduled this like 2 months ago.
nothing's ever a coincidence, right?
Right,
Like, it
right,
just,
right.
like I said, at this point in my life, I expect these
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
happen, but um the rigidity you're feeling in your body is very much because of the karma that you're carrying. So,
Okay.
but you're here to work through it, not to suffer
Mhm.
with it. Okay.
Right.
Now your autoimmune disease, is it what, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, rheumatoid arthritis
Okay.
and Sjogren's syndrome. So Sjogren's syndrome is kind of systemic, like it affects all the mucous membranes. So I get dry mouth, dry eyes, like my organs can be dry, like
Hmm.
just a lot of dryness everywhere. So that has caused me to have horrible dental problems. So I've actually lost all my bottom teeth, or I've had them pulled because I had so many problems. And I just got a bottom denture. I'm turning for 49 in November, and I'm young to have to. I have a lot of chewing to go in my future, so I had to look at like a hybrid option with implants that connects to the denture. Because when you have your teeth pulled, then your bone has no reason to be there, so everything goes away. And so it's just been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare for 12 years. And I'm finally, have the denture. It fits, things are going good. So it's just been a long, long road, you know.
Yeah.
But that's related to the Sjogren's, but rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia. So a lot of joint pain, flesh pain. I mean, I'm pretty good compared to others. I haven't had to do the really powerful drugs, thank God, um, because those are worse. Like those cause cancer and all kinds of things. So I've been handling it pretty good, trying to use nutrition and stress relief, and but it's hard. I know that my health is I mean, it's what brought me to spirituality, even though I was a Christian all those years. It's what my health is what brought me to look into other things. So
Hmm. Yeah. No, I understand. I understand. Um, trying to see where do we even go with it? Well, and your health, I mean, because you said you have a nutritional background, so I'm sure you like, when it comes to healing yourself with alternative methods, like, you're on top of that.
I know what to do.
Mhm.
I'm not the best at it. I really struggle with eating the way I need to. Like I have horrible sugar cravings, and like it's probably that rigidity thing. Like I every the way I have to eat, it has to be countercultural. It's like the opposite of how the rest of the world eats. And it's just hard. It's really hard. And I've really struggled with, I've gone through periods of eating the right way and I felt great, but for some reason I just can't stay there. I just can't. I don't know why I have such a block with just eating the way I know I need to. I guess because it seems so restrictive. I mean, it is very restrictive. It's pretty much like paleo, autoimmune protocol is pretty much meat and vegetables. Like no, and even certain vegetables I have to cut out, like no nightshades, no potatoes, no tomatoes, no peppers. I mean, that cuts out a lot of different things. So yeah, so that's been a challenge this whole time.
Mhm. Yeah, well, a few things. The 11-2s, they have a difficult time with structure.
Okay.
So they tend to be either codependent or that if even if they're independent, it's like having their own structure can be difficult at
Mm-hmm.
times. The 17-8 frequency though, let's talk. So even though this is your public speaking number, there's also a lesson with the 17s called slavery to freedom.
Okay.
And it's this feeling of, being a slave to something, somebody, it's just this
Yeah,
ongoing enslavement sort of a,
right. I would feel like that about diet.
yeah.
I would feel like that. Like I just want freedom. I want to be able to eat whatever I want. And yeah, I mean that definitely resonates. Like I want freedom in all things. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's a lot of what you're here to learn to achieve that,
Hmm.
your freedom, but also again, speak. So I think you having the podcast, YouTube,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
videos, that is very much what you're meant to be doing. And what are you going to be sharing with people? I don't know. It's going to be whatever your journey is.
Right,
I guess as
right.
it's going to be include health, your autoimmune health
Mm-hmm.
and also your uh just going from being, a Christian to, the closet spiritualist to the
Hmm.
what,
Right,
all of that. I mean, that journey right there
right.
is on a soul level, you're a very spiritually evolved soul. That's what the 18-9s tell me.
Okay.
You've lived many lifetimes, many
Hmm.
spiritual lifetimes.
Right.
And that's probably why you understood spirituality, once you start digging and like it just spoke
Hmm.
to you. I mean, you're like,
Right.
like you when you read something, you can tell, like,
It
how do I
makes,
know this? It's almost like you
yeah,
knowing it, like not like, oh,
right.
I just learned something new. It's like, yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so that's very much the 18-9. And you're being asked in this lifetime to follow the spiritual path as well or not. You're being given the choice. Sure, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. You're being given the choice of to follow spirit or not. Gosh, you have some of these repeating numbers. I don't. Let me quickly take a look at this. Yeah, I mean, this is such a successful business number as well. Do
The
you have your own,
17-8. Which
the
one?
18-9, the 18-9?
Oh, okay.
Do you have do you run your own business now, or is that something you wanted to step into?
I've been trying to get it going. Um, I've always worked for other people, but I've always wanted to have something of my own where I mean, I have a Mary Kay business, makeup it's semi successful. I don't put a lot of time into it anymore. But I want to get like a health coaching program going, and then I'm also starting the spiritual business on the side with my two friends. So yeah, I mean, I've always had that bug to start my own business.
It's so interesting. This woman right before you also was telling me she's dibble dabbled in network marketing businesses.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
like I'm like, I almost feel like I need to connect you to or
Right.
something that could be a good
Right.
what part of the country are you calling from?
I'm in Ohio.
You're in Ohio. Okay, she's in California.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, let's see where the
Yeah.
conversation leads us, but that might be an interesting one for you two to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she also has a 7/7 physical karma.
Okay.
So definitely some similarities there. But yeah,
Hmm.
okay. So what I'm seeing is essentially this. Let's just start at the beginning because I know we kind of dove in because you've got some
Mm.
other stuff going on. But let's start at the beginning. So the 7/7 frequency. This is all about the keywords are to heal and open up the heart.
Mm.
So it tells me maybe you've had some sort of a heartache journey
Mm-hmm.
in this
Yeah.
lifetime,
Yeah.
and you're here to learn how to heal your heart and then help others
Mm-hmm.
do the same, because
Yeah.
the sevens are usually people magnets. Do you find that people just come to you and start sharing things openly and sometimes like telling you their whole life story?
Yeah. I mean, definitely people are comfortable with me right away. And yeah. Yeah. That happens quite a bit.
So that's
And
because good.
well, I was going to say definitely lots of heart healing because my mom, she's bipolar and she had her first mental breakdown when I was 5.
Mm,
So I never really, I mean, I didn't know anything different, but as I grew up, like she was not really there, like as a mom so much. I mean, she taught me things, but like emotionally, and it was never really a mother-daughter relationship. It was more like uh friends and like I was taking care of her.
mhm.
Um and that's how it just was even more so more into adulthood, and especially now that she's older, it's I mean the roles have just reversed for most of my life, it feels like. So you know, there was that missing piece, I guess, in my life. And then my first marriage ended up just being all just heartbreak. And um, that husband I had my 2 children with, and um, you know, it was just very abusive in all the ways that it could be abusive. And I did get away from him, and I did hear I had a past life with him, and my children did too. And he murdered all of us in a past life. So it was kind of like this lifetime was to like end that.
Clear that cycle.
Yeah, yeah. And I was successful to get away from him and get my kids away from him. So a lot of heartache there. And then my oldest son, he was born, he had some birth defects and just some heartache there, like guilt and like not knowing the right thing to do with that. And so, yeah, so there's been a lot of heartbreak over my life for sure.
Mm, that's yeah.
And now I'm in a second marriage, and I mean, I think every marriage has its difficulty. So we've definitely weathered some storms in the second marriage too. So yeah. So yeah, pretty much through my whole life, there's been heartbreak.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I have the same karma, and I tell people I have a PhD in heartbreak.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I feel you on that. You know, it just kind of me
Yeah.
it comes at me from all different directions. It comes from past lives too.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're here to learn to heal we're here to heal all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this is where your rigidity comes from because of the
Mm-hmm.
control issue, and this is where your um gosh, I just lost my train of not wanting to be seen. It's difficult for you. That's why it's a challenge for you to actually step out and be who you
Yeah.
are, is because the sevens have a difficult time being seen. But this is actually what you're here to do, is you're here to learn how to feel safe enough
Mm-hmm.
to show up as your authentic self.
Is that because I'm afraid of having my heart broken? because it's happened so much.
Well, most likely it's because you're afraid of having your heart broken and because you don't want to be judged.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
shame. A lot of times there's shame,
Mm-hmm.
like having a second marriage fail or
Right.
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 The set
Yeah.
again, like the set, like because I also have sevens, like I guess I'm sharing some of the stuff I've gone through, like
Right.
I stayed in my marriage much longer than needed because I didn't want to have a failed marriage.
Yes.
Right. I was
Yeah.
with him for 17 years. I mean, the marriage was
Right.
probably over 6 years before I
Yeah.
actually left him,
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I didn't want people knowing the spiritual side of me. It was always kind of my own little secret. And then
Mm-hmm.
my spirit guys were like, yo, wake up. If you don't actually step out into doing what you're meant to do, we're going to send you trauma.
Yeah.
Trauma is what happens when we aren't aligned because it's meant to realign us.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
So
Yeah, I have a lot of fears of if people, because it's so fresh, me being in that conservative Christian community. I mean, it's so fresh. Like I was
yeah,
just there, 2.5, 3 years ago. I know what people are going to say and think because that was me. And that like I guess I have a fear of like losing those friendships or people judging me for sure, people feeling sorry for me, like, oh my gosh, she's going to hell. Who would have ever thought that Amy would turn out like this?
right. Well, that's most likely why you chose to be born into such a conservative place, in
Yeah.
America to um learn how to be seen,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And again, with that, it's a journey. I mean, like you're going to do this on your own pace, but at one of these days you're going to wake up and you're not going to
Right.
care. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
idea is it's not that
Yeah.
you don't care, but it's like these people's thoughts can't hurt you. Like they're welcome to think you're going to hell. Like, great.
Right.
Well, thank you for thinking of me. I appreciate the thoughts, right? But it's
Right.
um,
Right.
right now you still have a lot of your old programming running in the
Yeah.
background, and that's
Yeah.
keeping you anchored. It's just
Yeah.
adding to that rigidity. You probably,
Right.
I don't know if you found, you haven't found new friends, maybe new support system yet enough to make the
And I
transition.
do, yeah. Because I took a 6 month clairvoyant course, so I made really great. I mean, my soul sisters were there, so yeah, for sure. I'm creating that support system. It's just it takes some time because they're not really physically here. They're all in different parts of the world.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I'm creating those friendships and that helps for sure. So
Yeah, a
yeah.
hundred
And
percent.
and I've had other readings. Well, like in our clairvoyant course, we would read each other.
Mhm.
And I've been told I have like 10 generations back my mom's side, 7 generations back my dad's side of religious programming, and even Mennonites. I don't know if you know what Mennonites are, but like many Mennonite lifetimes. So
Mm.
that's even more conservative than what I grew up with.
Well, that's probably all the slavery to freedom, what I'm seeing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the
So
hardcore
tell me,
religion.
these numbers, does that mean like that's my soul, or that's just this lifetime, the numbers that I chose?
That's just this lifetime. This
Okay.
is your human personality in this lifetime, right?
Okay.
So think of this as like every lifetime you reincarnate into, you choose what personality you're going to be. You choose the karma you're going to work through. It's kind of like, each semester in college, you pick and choose your classes
Right.
the same way.
Okay.
So you picked and chose. You said, okay, I'm going to come in and have to work through this physical karma, the spiritual karma. So I need to be born into a rigid family. Okay, if I'm breaking the generational cycle of the religion, then okay, I need to be born into a religious family. That's going
Mm.
to have to give me some substance to back up against. Um,
Mhm.
this is probably all your spiritual religious lifetimes right here, because even though like again, in those lifetimes, if you were religious, you maybe always had a spiritual inkling,
Right.
you
Right.
know, so this is where I'm seeing it, like what you just told me, you've had many lifetimes of that. I'm seeing it
Mm-hmm.
right here. Like, this is very uncanny.
Mm.
The only other person I saw, I think 18/9s in similar to this, was he's a Native American medicine man,
Oh, okay.
you know, so
Yeah.
it's like you're that connected to the, you may or may not be even conscious or aware of it, but it's there and you're working through it, right? Like,
Right.
I'm not conscious and aware of all my stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and thank God, you know, I mean, I don't want to be
Yeah.
like, can you imagine reincarnating into every lifetime knowing every single bad thing you've ever done? Like, no, thank
Right.
you. I don't need to know
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm seeing, yeah, I think a big thing for you is your freedom. So much of your chart speaks of freedom, because the 17/8, the lesson of the 17 is to slaver to freedom. The 11/2s, they're here to build their own structure of truth.
Mm.
So they are here to like the keyword for 11 is assimilate. So as you go through life when you're younger, you assimilate everything around you, all the dysfunctional patterns, everyone's thoughts, ideas, like, and you take them on as your own, not even realizing they're not your own.
Mm. Yeah.
As you go through life, you're meant to wake up and say, wait a second, this isn't mine. This isn't how I wanted to live
Yeah.
life. And so you're meant to kind of shake up the structure, you know, release everything that's not yours, and then build your own structure of truth. That's what this box is here. Like, essentially, you live life from your philosophy. What is
Mm.
your truth? So a lot of this is about finding your personal truth and then resiliently sharing that with people. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're here to share all your experiences. The 20 is like, in the karmic sense, it's a rigid number, but you see how this is a wave? You're actually
Mm-hmm.
meant to flow through life. You're meant to explore. And this could show up as travel, could show up as learning a lot of different of the spiritual healing modalities.
Right.
And then
Right.
again, turning around and sharing that with, that's what the twos do. The twos share their life experience. They're teachers, but from a life experience point of view,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a wise counselor, right? You said people come to you and share things with you, because
Mm-hmm.
you also have these frequencies of a wise counselor, so to
Right.
speak.
Yeah.
And people feel very protected in your space.
Yeah.
How are you with decisions?
Um, I I feel like I can be indecisive. Um, yeah. I think I have a hard time making decisions.
Okay. So that, because I see that coming from three places. So I asked the sevens, again, oftentimes they're indecisive. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can make decisions for other people easier than you can for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so the sevens, they tend to do that, but also the 18/9s, they, in the most positive sense, you're meant to be like ridiculously decisive.
Oh,
You're meant to make decisions on the spot, follow through, take them to the end. They're visionaries in business. But when you're still experiencing the negative aspect of this frequency, they have a difficult time making decisions because they have kind of self or low self. I don't know if it's self.
confidence.
Yeah, like they don't like trust themselves in making the right choice, and they sometimes feel guilt over choices they have made that maybe have affected other people. So there's a big
Right.
lesson here to not feel guilty, because everybody else is on their own journey and you're not responsible for
Right.
people's journey. So you like this whole guilt thing is, and you, again, you have a lot of it because you've got this number twice.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
So it feels to me like there's so much, like you need to dump. I wanted to say clear, but the word that I heard was dump. You need to dump all the stuff, the crap you've absorbed, all the, because it sounds like you had it from your parents, you had it from the ex-husband. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, now it's like in your head, you're hearing all the things people are going to say about you before they've even said it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
That makes it very difficult to move forward. Like, you're carrying so much baggage. Like, of course your body's giving out.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah. And I feel like I've done a ton of healing, um, from when I started. But yeah, it just feels like layers and layers. Like there's so much, there's just so much. But yeah. And with it, as far as the like educating myself and like I cannot get enough. Like I keep signing up for courses. I don't have time to do them all. But I'm so thirsty for the knowledge, and it's so interesting to me. So,
Yeah. Well, that's what that 20 is. This is
yeah.
your mind's never ending. That's why I said it's like you always want to know. You're an experiential learner. That's why you like the courses. You want to
Yeah.
actually do it. You want to meet the people like you. Like
Yeah.
that's what you're supposed to be doing. So don't
Okay.
stop. You're
Okay.
supposed to go and experience. This is what's helping you break the rigidity. This is
Right.
you signing up for courses is you breaking through your karma.
Okay. Okay.
I understand you may not have time for all of them. You may not have
Yeah.
time for all of them in 1 year.
Right.
My active healing was 7 years.
Oh, wow.
7 years, right? From probably about 32, 34 to 38, 39. I don't know when I woke up and
Yeah.
said, "Oh my God, it's over." I just knew it. But one day I woke up and I just knew I was on the other side.
Mm.
I mean, not to say, I mean, there's still healing to be done. Like
Right.
yesterday, I went to one of my friends and we did a tuning fork on me, and she's like, "Holy crap! I've never seen so much past life stuff coming at somebody." And I was like, "Don't tell me that. Like, I don't want to hear that." But she's like, "I've never seen it." So I'm like,
Wow.
"Great, there's another layer I haven't touched yet."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been dealing with healing all the trauma from this lifetime. I haven't even
Right.
touched the past lives.
Right. Right.
So, but once this life's trauma was healed, I became a different person. Like I look different.
Mm.
I look at pictures of myself and I'm like, I'm a completely different person.
Wow.
It's
That's awesome.
because I was able to heal myself on that cellular level,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because the trauma, you probably know this with your background, but when trauma happens, it affects us on the cellular level, and the cells regenerate. So the traumatic cells, they regenerate and regenerate, right?
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah.
about 7 years to get to a whole new set of cells, which means you've got to start healing your cells internally. So when they start regenerating, so that's why
Yeah.
I said that I think for me, that's about what it was. It was about the 6 to 7 years
Right.
of healing
So
myself. Yeah, go ahead.
does that 20 have to do with my problem of buying like buying books and then not reading them, or like the I feel like I need to buy every, great book I hear about. Like when you're talking about that, I thought of The Body Keeps the Score.
Hmm.
Have you heard of that book
I
about
have, yeah.
have I read it yet? No. It's in my pile by my bed. Like,
Hmm.
does that 20 have to do with, I mean, I feel like that's also like me signing up for these courses. Like I'm always buying books that are gonna change my life,
Hmm.
but then I don't get around to reading
Reading
them.
them, right? No, I completely understand. So I think that, um, well, I guess what I was trying to say is you're not going to accomplish all this in, 1 year, 2 years, three. Like you need more time to read
Yeah.
the books.
Yeah.
Like you need more. You may end up reading the book in 3 years, but at that
Mhm.
point you just pull it off your shelf,
Right,
right?
right.
So the other thing is because you're 15, the 15s, they tend to think they hear ideas and they're like, "That's a great idea. That's a great idea. That's a great idea." It's not
Yeah.
your idea, has nothing to do with you, right?
Right.
But the 15s, they're like, because they're open to trying everything, they'll
Yeah.
try a bunch of things, they'll get all the, but you see how this symbol goes in circles,
Yeah.
kind of just spin
Yeah.
in a circle because as a 15, you're here on a very gentle spiritual journey of finding your own like inner compass of like
Okay.
feeling God within, understanding who you are. But the way it manifests in life is while they're on that search and searching, it's like they try out a whole bunch of different things. So when somebody tells you this book is going to change your life, you're like, that book's going to change my life. I have to buy it.
Yeah.
Right. I'll tell you what I do. When I hear about all the great books, I add them into my Amazon wish list.
I do that too.
Okay.
I actually put it in my cart and then I like save it for later. So I have this huge list.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know there's no way I'm going to read all these books.
Right.
And the thing is, if I am going to read them, chances are I'm actually probably going to listen to them. But sometimes I buy the books because like my books, I like to underline and like take notes from. So sometimes I'll get to, but I know if I do that, it's like, I'm going to dedicate specific time to one book at a time. And I have to make a very conscious choice to do that because like, otherwise I'm never going to get to it. Like you said.
Yeah.
And as part of my meditative healing practice, I like to, again, because I live in Arizona, so it's a little different, but because it's so warm here, I wake up and the first thing I like to do is go connect with the sun. So while I'm laying out in the sun, I've got my headphones in listening to the book.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I've kind of built it into but it's part of my grounding, meditative, spiritual practice.
Right. Yeah.
So just giving you ideas of how to incorporate that.
And you said one of these numbers has to do with like, I have a hard time with structure. So does that mean like starting new habits? Like, I feel like I always have ideas about, a better morning routine or a better evening routine. And I get excited about it, but I cannot stick with it. Like I have a really hard time like creating better habits. Is that one of those numbers?
I think that's your 11 too. I have that in my soul destiny and I'm the same way. Like, and I get so frustrated with myself because for the life of me, like I just can't. And I shouldn't say can't because I've done in the past.
Right.
But, and also because, you're so restricted, I think with so many things in life, it's probably difficult for you to have to restrict yourself with yet another
area of my life. Yeah.
And I would say I also resonate with that. That's one of the things that is difficult for me, or I should say I've had to deal with, even though if the habit I want to create is a healthy habit, if I somehow feel restricted, I almost have like a natural, like, no, I don't want to do this because I don't want to feel restricted.
Right. Yep. That sounds true for me.
Yeah. So that's probably what's happening with you, but
yeah.
But the thing is, again, like let me just kind of go through all the numbers. I know we're a little all over the place, but that's
that's
sometimes
okay.
the conversation just flows naturally. But again, with the sevens, you're here to help people heal and you're here to somehow bring people together. Sometimes in a community, sometimes it could be more one-on-one, but again, the biggest challenge for you is going to be to step out into the world as who you are, be your authentic self, and you're going to attract people like you who need your help. So you're going to find others, most likely you're going to connect with a lot of other Christian women that are into spirituality and they don't know how to bridge. And, I know you want to start a health coaching thing. You still might, there's no restriction on what you do, but I also feel like you can create a support group for women, but this is going to be your, like, I feel community for you.
Yeah. And I've heard that a lot before.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just what it feels like. The 11-2 in the most positive sense, phenomenal business number, and you have it in your talents, which tells me you can easily build a business, a community, write a book. When I say easily, I know you have to work through your stuff, but you have the actual energy sitting in your talent position to do that. So you have, it's not even the skill set, it's the frequency supporting you to build.
Okay.
So remember, this is all about, and you're going to build this business from your own truth, your own philosophy on life. Right. So that's where you're headed. Like you're not, this, you're just like, you're still in that kind of, like you said, area.
Yeah.
You haven't even found your own footing in it yet, but once you do,
Right.
everything you build needs to be with your philosophy, your structure of truth, and you're going to be resilient. So
Mm.
it doesn't matter what all these people will say and think of you. It's I mean, it might be hurtful, but
Right.
you'll see it from a higher perspective. They are where
Yeah.
they are, and that's okay.
Right.
But it's the resiliency, because the twos initially in life, they're very sensitive,
Mm.
physically, emotionally. But as you go through life, you're meant to build up the resilience. This is like a spring. So you're meant to cushion life's bumps for yourself, for those around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's what this 11-2 is in the most positive sense. The 18-9, we talked about this quite a bit, but I'm telling you, I have had people come with me with these frequencies, and they are so successful with business.
Mm.
Women too, like, they're great visionaries.
Yeah.
So again, you've got the frequencies. You've got to build up more confidence in making decisions that are in your benefit. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking. Like, well, let me make sure I said that properly. Where you are the priority. The decisions,
Right.
like, you're, not, I don't know, how old are your kids now? Are they still young, or?
Um, we're in a blended marriage, so the youngest one just turned 19 to 26. So we have three living at home, but definitely don't need us as much anymore. I mean,
Right.
they all have jobs and they're independent and responsible. They just live here still. So
Okay.
yeah,
So you're the priority right now.
yeah. And that's always been a struggle to put myself first. I've always put everyone else first and not paid attention to my own needs. But I definitely am doing better with that. And I even took a weekend away at a bed and breakfast just by myself because I just had to get away from everybody and like connect with myself. Like I feel like I didn't even know myself anymore. Like I just had to be with myself and figure out some business things that I want to do and kind of show everyone else like I need this alone time and you all drain me. And plus we have two big golden doodles that are just a lot of responsibility. It's like having two toddlers,
Mm,
because I make their food from scratch. They eat raw. I, walk them 10 times a day and it's just a lot, you know.
yeah,
So so
I
that was really
understand.
good. It was good for me to get that break, and it was good to show the rest of my family, I need this time, and I feel, sometimes taken advantage of and taken for granted, that I do all these things for everybody. I now it's time for me. I have to have this time. So, yeah.
Good. I'm glad you know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think it's good for you to be alone in that space too, because this is where you're going to get your ideas, and then you got to
Mhm.
follow through on your ideas, because the 15-6s, like, they have ideas, but they procrastinate,
Oh,
or they,
yes.
or they'll analyze something to death, or
Yes.
they like won't take the risk if they think it's going to fail. So
Yeah.
they won't even pursue it.
Yeah.
So the 15-6 wants you to take more risks, to follow through on your ideas. Like, the 15 is associated with your, like, gut intuition.
Mm.
So whenever you're not sure, ask your intuition. Like, don't
Mhm.
overanalyze it. You're never going to get the answers in your head.
Mhm.
So just
Mhm.
check in with yourself, because the 15 is associated with the stomach.
Okay. Yep.
Um, okay, so then your triangle that's facing up, again, this was your the rigidity. This was you being, raised in a very Christian
Mhm.
household, just most of your life, and you're here to break free of that, experience all the different things. This is why you're attracted to all the courses, and then you're going to be teaching that. You're going to be sharing all of this with people, like, in
Yeah.
such I mean, this is a massive public speaking number.
Yeah. Yep.
Massive. Like I said, like, the I don't know, Justin Timberlake. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done a few other celebrities. He was the only one that came up with this one. And I'm like, well, that's fitting for him. I mean, he's a singer,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
but you have
Right.
that same voice into society frequency that you carry.
Right. Right.
So you've got that. And then the 18-9 spiritual talents is well, very similar to physical goals, but when it sits in your spiritual talents, again, it's like you're really here to follow a spiritual path. You're being given the choice, but you're so drawn to it, and it's because of
Mm-hmm.
this,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. And the 9s, they're very connected to source. Your narcissist husband was from the 9s, the abusive husband.
Yeah.
It's a power control, because they tend to attract people that are going to victimize them, take away their power,
Yeah.
because you're here to learn how to stand in your power, how
Mm-hmm.
powerful you are. So he needed to come in as a contrast for you.
Right. Right.
Plus, you
Yeah.
needed to clear all the past life crap with him.
Right. Right. Right.
But that's from here. And 18-9s, they often have very loud past life themes playing out in the lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So your children and your ex-husband, is that you probably have a lot of other past life stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So that's that. The 15-6, Steve Jobs had this number,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Very creative man, right? So
Yeah.
you have, again, that's the level of creativity that you've got. You're constantly communicating to your higher self to get these ideas, like, you know, your
Yeah.
health coaching business, your like,
Mhm.
your it's like your channel is constantly
Yeah.
just coming in,
Yeah.
coming in.
Yeah. And I've been told that before too. Yeah.
Yeah, your job is to take these ideas and physically manifest them into
Yeah.
reality, because it does nothing good if they just keep coming into your head. The ideas will never stop, like,
Okay.
because they're being fed to you from a soul level.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And then again, all of this leads us to you sharing and speaking into society.
Yeah.
You know, I like the podcasting, YouTube
Hmm.
videos, that's going to work for you.
Yeah. So I actually got the idea of starting to do interviews of other spiritual people that we know, like in our class that have started business. But then I started reaching out to like professionals. I was going to ask you too if you'd be interested in being interviewed. But
Yeah.
we're going to start doing interviews on our YouTube channel just to not only to like promote their business, like, and I was picking people that I've had readings with and I've worked with, but also just to teach, our community about, what they offer and like, or like how they got started, or like their, a brief synopsis of their spiritual journey, like how, when they started hearing voices or whatever. And so we just are getting started doing that. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, no, I love that. So let me just quickly show you. I started my podcast. I only have like one episode on there because, there's
Awesome.
a million things, but look at the title is, when did you know that you could talk to dead people? An interview with a
Right.
psychic medium.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, very similar idea to what you're saying. Now, I don't know what this is going to evolve into. I have a feeling it's going to evolve, because everyone's podcast, like we all have these ideas and then they evolve
Yeah.
to it. But, and I haven't
Right.
had a chance to come back to it.
Yeah.
I will though, and absolutely I'd be interested in being a guest on
Oh,
your
that'd be
pod.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100% when you're ready.
Because
Just
what you're doing, I've never heard of. Like it and I don't remember, was this something that you created, that you figured out on your own?
yeah, great question. So it's not. I'll give you a bit of a history on it. So I learned it from my teacher. His name is Nicholas.
Mm,
And Nicholas learned it
I
from a
remember.
man named oh my God, his name just escaped me. Um it was on the tip of my tongue and it disappeared.
I kind of remember the story
Frank
now.
Alper. Sorry about
Okay.
Frank Alper. Randomly enough, Frank used to live in Phoenix or Sedona, Arizona, where I live in Phoenix.
Okay.
Sedona is, the spiritual hub. And my teacher, Nicholas, flew in from the UK and ended up in Phoenix, Scottsdale. I don't know. He walked in and he heard Frank talk about this. Frank had channeled this work in the 70s.
Okay.
So this is
Yeah.
ancient work that was done in prior times and got lost. And
Mm.
Frank channeled it in. And so my teacher, Nicholas, learned it from him. When Frank passed, he didn't have much left behind. So Nicholas took it and created, and Nicholas is this Asian man from New Zealand who now lives in the UK. Like he is, oh, and he's a former chemical engineer. He's in his 60s. Like you wouldn't expect that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's a
Right.
fascinating combination. But Nicholas turned this, he wrote a book, and he does all the trainings. And I found him, I saw an interview of him on Gaia.
Oh, okay.
Are you familiar with Gaia?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay. And as soon as I heard him speak, it was like every cell in my body was like, whoa, like I can't even tell you, everything was popping off. And I was like, who is this man? What, you know? And I went down to say I went down the rabbit hole was an understatement, because here
Yeah.
I am, right? Changed, it was light, but I used to do this work prior. And I think
Okay.
it was like
Yeah.
seeing it and being like, oh my, so I found him immediately, like took classes. I've done all the work with him. I guess now I've been doing the readings for 4 years. So this is not my modality, but
Okay.
it's something about this modality is so near and dear to my, like I've done this before.
Right.
I have
Right.
my own talents, right? Like I'm intuitive. My third eye is ridiculously open.
Yeah.
So I have my own stuff, but as
Hmm.
far as the readings, the soul contract, and there's not that many practitioners that
Right.
do this work.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah,
It's so you said Nicholas was born in New Zealand, but he lives in the UK.
correct, yeah.
So one of my business partners, Jen, she was born in New Zealand and she lives in the UK.
Oh wow, okay.
So that's kind of funny.
That, yeah, might be
Yeah.
that might be a spiritual hub transition of some sort,
Right. Right. Yeah.
something.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's, again, so with this work, I feel like part of my mission is also to kind of help spread this work out into the world. I don't know that this is my ultimate end all be all, but I tell you, this is my language. Like I speak
Mhm.
the soul contracts, and I mean, this, like the
Yeah.
deeper I go into it, the more I know, and then I get downloads. I've taken all the courses possible with my teacher, and I have
Yeah.
books from different colleagues. And there's another teacher that has a mastery course on this, where he ties all of this in with the Kabbalah
Mm.
and tarot, and
Yeah.
like he brings in all these different modalities. So that course, I'm taking it, and it kicks off in November.
Okay.
November. Yeah. So anyways, my point in telling you this, because it's something I studied. I don't know. You may be interested in it. Because I know you're
Mm.
interested in a lot of things. So I'm
Right.
sharing with
Right.
you, because if this is one of the things,
Right.
it
Right.
might be, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I find all the different modalities so fascinating, but I have so much I've signed up for. I'm like, I'm not allowed to buy another course until I finish the ones I
Yes.
have. Because
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of galactic astrology, but it's kind of new.
Mhm.
Um, they just opened up that course in February of this year, and I think they have like 15 practitioners. Like every month, there's like another new one that graduates. I have hardly touched that material. It is so overwhelming
Mhm.
because I'm still new to astrology, just astrology, period.
Yeah.
And it's galactic astrology. So it's looking at alignments that connect you to different star systems,
Oh, wow.
and it's amazing. I looked at my son's charts and we have all these alignments that are the same. And yeah, it's fascinating. but it's overwhelming. So that's a big one that's on the back burner. But I just signed up for like a mediumship course and an automatic writing course. Super excited about automatic writing because I really feel a connection there. Like I can get a lot of these ideas out of my head, onto paper with some regular practice. So
Yeah. 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 I think, all of that will be really good for you.
yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So
So do people ever like change their name legally to change their like karma or their contracts?
yes, yes. So here's what happens. You can't really change your contract, right? Like the same way you
Hmm.
can't change your birth date,
Right,
you can't
right,
change your birth name, but you could overlay it, right? So for instance, your name, your current name is an overlay on top of your um birth name.
right.
So yeah, so it's an overlay. So when you took on this last name, and how long have you had this last name for?
4.5 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you took on new frequency. So did you feel any shifts when you took on this name?
Um, kind of, but I don't know how. I mean, definitely there's like when your last name changes, that's huge. It's just huge. But I don't know energetically how it felt. Because we didn't really move in together until 2 years ago. So we've only lived together for 2 years, and that was the big change. That was like when things got really interesting and difficult.
Did you feel more grounded taking this name?
I think I felt more security for sure. Um, and there, when you talked about codependence, I definitely have that going on. There's
Mm,
definitely codependency on both of our parts. Like he depends on me energetically, I depend on him like financially,
mhm,
security, feeling safe, all those things. So yeah, because I was a single mom for 13 years. It was a huge struggle,
mm,
being a single mom with a totally absent ex.
mhm,
Their father was totally absent. Not that I really wanted him around anyway, because he wouldn't have been a good influence, but definitely was on my own, you know. So yeah, I when Joe came into my life, it was 2012, which I know is a big deal year now.
mhm,
But yeah, he definitely helped keep my life more stable and secure and financially, stable. And, he taught my kids things that I couldn't teach, like, how to shave and, the different guy things.
mhm, mhm.
So yeah, yeah, it was, I guess you would say grounding.
Okay, well, just because you brought in a lot of eights when you took on his name. You see all these eights, and the eights, the
Yeah.
keyword is grounding.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, and again,
Well, and really, he was there during my awakening too, because like beginning of 2020 is when that was happening. And he was a safe place to do that. And, I didn't know that was going to happen.
mhm,
And he didn't know that was going to happen. And he was, he grew up Catholic, but he became more just like Protestant Christian, not so much Catholic. But I was surprised that he was very open to all these crazy things I was looking into. And it ended up being a very safe place for me to explore all those things. So,
mhm.
yeah.
Sounds like a great partner for you.
Yeah. Yeah. We're figuring things out a little better. With me going away for a weekend, that did wonders.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, so one of the other things that I do, here I'll show you really quick. Like, what's his birth name?
Uh, Rogelio, Rogelio, and you need his middle name too?
Yeah.
He's Filipino, so oh my gosh, I have to think. Big, Lawg, big, long, wait, big? No, Lang, big, long, Awa. That's his middle name, Big, Long, Awa. Banaga, Banaga.
Okay. Did I get it right?
I think so. Big, long, big lawn? I think that's it. I'm pretty sure that's it.
Okay. Because I just want to show you one of the other things we can do is so I can take his name and, your kids' names, and we could do a family read,
Oh, okay.
right? So like if this is his name and it's correct,
Do you need dashes or anything?
no.
Okay, yeah, it is correct. I just looked it up. Big Long Awa. Yeah,
Okay.
such a different name.
Yeah, it's unique. It's okay. But
Yeah.
this essentially tells me how you two interact.
Okay.
So,
And it's funny, we're both Scorpios. Our birthdays are like 6 days apart, but he's a year older.
mhm. Yeah, so there's, I don't see any clashes.
That's good.
Yeah, but the contract will tell me how you both interact with each
Mm-hmm.
other. See, he also has the 17.8 frequency, the 15.6. So you two get each other. You carry actually some pretty similar frequencies. This is his codependency number, the
Right.
11.2.
Right.
He's probably very analytical in his head all the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Did
Mm-hmm.
he have challenges with his mom?
He was a firstborn and there was 4 boys. I don't know because with his culture, like all the responsibility fell on him because he was the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I honestly I feel like he has a lot of trauma he's not even told me about and that he's just held in. Um, so I really feel like I don't know much about his relationship with his parents because they both passed. You know,
Mm-hmm.
his mom was gone before I met him, and then his dad died within the first couple of years of us knowing each other, maybe even in the first year. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I know much about his childhood or his parents' relationship, except that he had a ton of responsibility. Like he was responsible for getting his brothers to school in the morning, like on the bus and fed and dressed and, from a very early age. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, in any case, so but like I said, I just kind of wanted to show you some of the other things we could do, so if that's
Yeah.
something you were interested in, we could look at again, I could pull up your whole family, and we could see how
Yeah.
all of you interact, your kids and whatnot.
Okay.
Um, but as far as for you, it sounds like you're very much on the right path. I think you're at the point where you've got to clear off the old patterns. I mean, you said you've done a lot of that work, so
Yeah.
maybe that you've done enough for now. So now it's about
Yeah.
being in action and
Right.
slowly but surely stepping out into the world as your authentic self and letting
Mm-hmm.
your voice be heard, having trust in your own decisions, your own um the ideas that you have, following through on them. I mean, it sounds like you're on the path for all of it. It's just
Yeah.
like this
Yeah.
is a lot of validation. So
Right. 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 Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. It's really fascinating and it does validate a lot of things and it's a lot of same things I've heard from other people and so yeah, I like the validation of it. So, but yeah, we'd love to interview you so I can email you and try to figure out a time that works and
Yeah, absolutely.
send you questions so you're prepared and you're not caught off guard.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Yeah, all of that, or I won't feel off guard. It's all good, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'll do
Yeah.
the questions and we'll go
Yeah.
from there. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And we may be flying into Phoenix at some point in the next month because my husband, him and his brothers, his parents owned property in California
Mhm.
to to make a solar farm, and it was one of their crazy ideas that never turned into anything, but they're trying to sell it, so we have to go out there and like take a drone and take video of, it's like 100 acres in the desert. And he's like, do you want to fly into Phoenix or LA or Las Vegas? I'm like, definitely Phoenix. I don't want to go to those crazy cities.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah,
Yeah, so
I
that's
agree.
kind of neat that you live there. So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah, thank you so much. That was
my pleasure.
yeah. Oh, and I had one more question.
Uh-huh.
Would you care if I shared this video on our YouTube channel or in our Facebook page? Or is that, how do you
No,
feel
I,
about
I
that?
think that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that it's up to you because it's your soul that we're talking
Yeah.
about, your dynamics.
I've
Um,
always felt like I'm an open book. Like, I don't care, if everybody sees my baggage, because
yeah,
people learn from it, and people, you know, I don't know. I just think it's good to share your stories and show you're human and we all go through the same things. And
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm
awesome.
with you on that. So
Yeah. All
yeah,
right,
share
great.
away.
Well, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
You too, Amy. So I'll follow up shortly with recording. And if you have any thoughts or questions, let me know. And just reach out, for the
Okay.
interview and we'll continue everything from there.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Have a good
Have a
one.
good
All right.
one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.